Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the notion that maybe some ambitious Conservative MPs may be using this week's Conservative Party conference, the virtual sort of course, as a springboard for their leadership or other desires when Johnson is given the bum's rush, hopefully next year. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, interesting times with the Conservative Party conference this year. A year ago, of course, it was a victory lap for Boris Johnson and a rallying cry for his Brexiteers of Brexit ahead of what he was hoping would be a general election, and indeed it was. Had he converted his victories of 2019, because it has to be said, for him politically it was a good year. Had he been able to convert those into triumphs in 2020, then this year's conference would have been an absolute victory lap for him. As it is, he's cocked up absolutely everything that 2020 has thrown at him. Even the conference itself started off as a sort of metaphor for Johnson's leadership because it was beset by a few technical issues. Wasn't working at all. And in the background to this, what Conservative Party members who would be tuning into this virtual conference will be noting is that Labour have caught the Conservatives in the polls. Those same polls consistently showing greater support for Keir Starmer as Prime Minister than Boris Johnson on a personal level. The latest poll of Conservative Party members, so this is a poll not for the members of the public but specifically for Conservative Party members, who are the very people that decided that Boris Johnson should replace Theresa May as Prime Minister, now shows Boris Johnson as the second least popular member of the cabinet, the senior members of the government. The party members literally consider all but one of Johnson's own cabinet colleagues as preferable to him. They'd like a monkey to draw a name out of a hat, and do you know what? The chances are that's going to be better than Boris Johnson. That is what they're saying. Oh, and who's the poor sod considered even worse than Boris Johnson right now? For the record, that is Education Secretary Gavin Williamson. Rishi Sunak is the runaway favourite. He's right at the top of the tree where Boris Johnson used to be amongst party members. Then you've got Liz Truss in second, which is an interesting one. Maybe that's because her department has managed to get some sort of success. There's the Japanese trade deal in principle is her department. You can't really point to her and complain about lots of cock-ups this year, I suppose. So maybe she's in second place by dint of the fact it's hard to find a cabinet minister that hasn't cocked things up spectacularly, with the exception potentially at the moment of Rishi Sunak. But there are other Conservatives who may fancy a crack at the top job themselves. And senior Conservatives will of course know that backbench MPs are very, very dissatisfied with Boris Johnson. And so they may be thinking, right, there's going to be a leadership challenge. Unless Boris Johnson gets rid of Dominic Cummings and gets rid of most of us, because that's what he needs to do as well. In order for backbench MPs to give Boris Johnson another chance, he has to get rid of Dominic Cummings. That doesn't look likely. He also has to get rid of most of them because they blame a lot of cabinet ministers for being a bit vacuous and incompetent. So most of their heads are on the block as well. So, of course, any leadership hopeful would need the support of fellow MPs to make it onto the final ballot. But the final ballot itself is decided upon by party members. They have to appeal to the Conservative membership. And this is the annual conference. And it seems to me that a number of Conservatives may be using their speeches to set out their stall. Now, Dominic Raab gave a speech at the start of the conference. So he deputised for Johnson. He is technically the Deputy Prime Minister. He did deputise when Johnson was ill with COVID. And in his speech, he set out his caring family values store, talking of his concern for Boris Johnson while he was ill and his concern for Carrie Symonds and how she would cope with the baby. Also, it reminded them that he was second in charge, that he is a senior member of the government. And, if Johnson had to go, well, I could soon fill in there. He talked about the economy, about climate change, about education, kids, about trade. And I thought to myself, when I was reading this report, he's the Foreign Secretary. Why is he not talking about international diplomacy? Why is he not talking about building bridges around the world? Why is he not talking about Britain's place in the world, on the world stage? You know, the things that should be the concern of his department, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Why? I think it's because he's presenting his leadership credentials. After all, if he succeeded Boris Johnson, his remit wouldn't just be international relations. It would be education, it would be trade, it would be the economy, environmental standards, the whole caboodle. He'd be Prime Minister. I think this is why he talked about them. I think he's saying to the party membership, look, I'm the natural choice for leader. Not sure he is, but that's what he's trying to do. Michael Gove, by comparison, who would definitely be in with a shout to be the next leader, was much more on message about his role as cabinet minister, because he talked about Brexit, and that's, you know, what he's involved with at the moment. Maybe Michael Gove doesn't feel that he needs to set out a wider stall at the moment. It wasn't worth his effort. After all, he's been at the top of the party for some time. The membership know who he is, know what he is. I know what he is. It's also, I suppose, currently suits him for Boris Johnson to reign as Prime Minister. Because with Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, who doesn't get involved in things, Gove and Cummings have a completely free hand to do as they like while he's leader. And if and when he falls, well, Gove can make his pitch then. He doesn't need to rock the boat right now, I suppose. But then came Priti Patel. She did hers on Sunday. And, you know, she was already engaged from last week in a contest of who can be nastiest with Downing Street. And she continued this line in her conference speech. You know, she did the usual job of a Conservative Home Secretary, you know, talking up law and order credentials whilst conveniently not mentioning the huge cuts to police numbers as well as ancillary staff, as well as all the police stations that have closed, because, you know, law and order needs fewer police. We all know that. No, she instead attacked asylum seekers. Oh, not the genuine ones, of course. Oh, we understand there are genuine asylum seekers. Yeah, the vast majority of them now. No, that would never do. Just the others. The others. This large tidal wave of others. Unspecified others. She also attacked protesters. No. Not the anti-maskers or the anti-vaxxers. No, that would be silly. No. She attacked people protesting against racial inequality. You know, those on the left, she said. Some of those on the left. I mean, I suppose being opposed to inequality is a left-wing idea. I mean, I've often thought so. But it is interesting to hear someone on the right say so. But this was a call to show how nasty she could be, I think. As I've said before, I'm not sure she will be making a tilt for the leadership herself. I don't think she has enough support in the parliamentary party. I do not see her, and I think she would probably see, although she may be vain enough to think otherwise, I do not see how she could find herself on the ballot that would go to party members. But she is perhaps making a pitch to remain as a senior member of the government. Her own polling amongst the party faithful is fairly middling. It's not that impressive. It's not bad, but it's certainly nowhere near the top. Certainly not high enough to warrant one of the very top jobs in government. And that's what she has right now. You know, so perhaps her speech, clearly designed to both distract from the real problems facing the country and at the same time demonstrate a level of unpleasantness that could only possibly find favour amongst the most extreme of Conservative supporters, i.e. party members. Not that I'm saying all party members are extreme, but, you know, people who are on an extreme wing of politics do tend to get much more involved in politics. Much was made of the fact that she used the term do-gooder as an insult. She talked about do-gooders in insulting terms. Because that's where we are with these people. Those who do good are the enemy. To be ridiculed, despised even. She judges that that sentiment will play well to party members. It probably will. And it's through the prism of next year's likely leadership contest that I think I'm going to be looking at each of these speeches that are made this week. Because after all, it's probably their last chance to speak directly to the membership. We cannot say for certain that Boris Johnson won't be retained as leader. Politics is a funny thing. Until he is challenged, then who knows what will happen. But at the moment, you've got people openly talking about him being unsuitable. The party membership think he's unsuitable. So it is very, very likely. And I would be amazed if during the party conference 2021, there were not a different party leader to the bumbling buffoon they have now. So this is their chance to appeal directly to the members who will ultimately vote for the next leader. So this week, that is their chance. They can't openly plug their credentials, of course, to a higher office. But they will all seek, I think, to convince the wider party that they are not one of the incompetent boobs that clearly bedeviled Johnson's government in general. Because everyone knows that the ills befalling us are not the result of one man's uselessness. He packed his cabinet with ministers who would be loyal to him, but competence was not on the personal spec. Now, it doesn't mean to say they had to be actively incompetent, you know, so there could be a few ones, but most of them know that they're going to be sacked at some point next year. They can't be kept on. They're useless. So they need to stand out as being the one or two that's not actually useless. You know, that's how they need to pitch themselves to the party. So they need to be able to say, get their polling up in the party membership so that then they can say to other MPs and potentially the eventual leader, I'm respected amongst the wider party. You need me at the top of government. There we go. But anyway, I would say certainly any successor to Johnson cannot afford to keep anyone on considered useless, especially by their own party. So yeah, that's how I see this conference going this week. But those are my thoughts anyway. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.